Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast. I'm your host, Hiking Bob Falcone. You can check me out on my website at hikingbob.com with links to my social media, my other podcasts I've done, my photography website, and also you can support my podcast and sign up for my newsletter. All of that at hikingbob.com. Today, we are wrapping up our series on participating agencies in the 2023 Give Pikes Peak campaign with one of my favorite groups because they do so much stuff with kids. And it's the Catamount Institute, and I have the executive director, Heather Graves, with me today. Heather, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And this is your first time on the podcast because you are, within the last year, new to being the executive director here, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
The 12th actually will be my 1-year anniversary.
Oh, perfect. So you were just going to be passing your 1-year anniversary when this comes out.
Yeah.
So perfect. I guess the big question, what does the Catamount Institute do?
So thanks for the question. Catamount Institute, our mission is simple. It is connecting kids to the outdoors. And we do that through environmental education, science education, recreation, and adventure.
So you guys are in the inspired learning section of the Give, and I primarily do the great outdoors. But with your description, it's hard not to put these two things together and why I carry you guys over into my category. I steal you from the other category. But you're out there and you're getting kids. Tell us, how do you connect them with that? What's your programs like that you do here? I know you're doing stuff all year round.
Yeah.
What are your programs like that you're doing here?
Yeah, so we serve kids 2 through 17 years old, and we work with multiple community-based organization partners, school partners, and we do after-school programs. We do alternative school programs, supplemental science programs. We do summer camp, preschool, teen leadership, outside classrooms, homeschool. And so when we partner with RIMFE or when we partner with District 2 or District 11, that's really where we kind of attract kids just from the being in the community, all the information we put on social media, our websites, but that's how we pull kids in, and just the attraction, which has really gained a lot of interest over the last several years, especially since COVID. People are looking for alternatives to school, and they want to get their kids outside.
And who doesn't want to be outside, right?
Exactly.
The day we're recording this, it's kind of cold and snowy and stuff like that, but still beautiful out there.
Absolutely.
Your age range is a pretty wide age range. So you're hitting a lot of different target audiences, I guess, is the way to describe that. And obviously what you're teaching somebody in kindergarten is a whole lot different than what you're teaching a 17-year-old who is going to be like a junior or senior in high school, I guess. So how do you do those different programs? How do you customize that for such different age groups?
Yeah. We have a director of education, Billy Kinn, and his expertise really is those ages and stages of kids through school and through development. And so we have core lessons related to ecology, stewardship, nature in general, STEAM education. And then Billy, along with our team, they really tailor those core lessons and the core messages we want to those specific age groups.
So when you're let's say you bring in a group of kindergartners from District 11, just say, in here, just nice summer day or something like that, springtime day, and you're bringing them out here. What are you teaching? What are you doing for the kindergartners? And then let's talk about like would you bring in like seniors from District 11 out here?
I'm going to take an opportunity to answer that in a couple different layers.
Sure, absolutely.
And so one of the things that Catamount Institute prides ourselves on is meeting people where they are. Okay. And often we've heard over the years, or what I've been told, is that, people have been they're not going to necessarily be an expert in environmental education, and they're not going to be able to name all the flowers or all the bugs or the trees. And so we recognize that, and that's where we want people. We want to meet them where they are. And so if we are teaching kindergartners about the parts of a flower and plant growth, then we're putting on flower costumes and plant costumes in the different parts of the plant, whereas if we're teaching, a middle schooler or a high schooler, it might be a little bit more academic, a little bit more sciencey. Not that dressing up in a flower costume isn't sciencey, but we really break it down for the age.
Sure. Actually, as somebody who spends a lot of the spring out there taking pictures of wildflowers. I think I would benefit from the kindergarten class with people dressed as flowers, because I'm always asked, "What's that flower?" I'm going, I have no idea. It was pretty. I took a picture of it. I'm getting better. I should know what it is I'm taking pictures of, but I'm drawn by the color or the leaves or the petals or whatever it is. But half time I'm like, I'm not a botanist. I was a firefighter. I don't know what I'm looking at here. Right. It's a flower.
Right.
So you start off with the basics. I mean, kids are obviously more visually, and they need, if you look at any kind of, I'm thinking, when I grew up, Sesame Street and stuff like that, very visual, very impactful, very colorful. So you really are tailoring it to those. And obviously a 17-year-old is going to look at that and go, well, that's kind of silly. So you're obviously not going to teach them all the same way.
Right. And I think too, the kids in the Pikes Peak region, those of us that have been able to get outside and connect to nature may take that for granted.
Right.
And so we have kids that live, 15, 20 minutes from Garden of the Gods or Red Rock Open Space, but they've never been. And so maybe their confidence level is low, or they're not comfortable, or they may not have transportation or access. And so Catamount Institute also is really looking at meeting kids where they are, people where they are, breaking down the lessons that's either age appropriate, level appropriate, okay, but also some of those kind of external or maybe outer layers in terms of we want people in our region, we want kids in our region to feel comfortable getting out on the trails, finding ways to get out on the trails, or getting into Garden of the Gods, or whatever it might be, getting over to Prospect Lake, different things like that. And so we just are really hone in on that ability to, and I'm repeating myself now, but just meeting them where they are and recognizing, this group already knows what the parts of the plant or flower is. We're going to take this up a notch. Or this group is worried about getting, bugs and snakes, and they don't feel, comfortable or safe on the trail. And so then we have to, switch that up a little bit as well.
So do you go out to the schools? Do you bring them here to the Catamount Institute over on the west side of town, or a little bit of both? Do you start out with them in their comfortable setting in their classrooms and then bring them out here? Or I'm guessing you do both, because you got the beautiful facility here and everything.
Yes, we do. Yes, and yes.
Okay.
And so we also do place-based nature education and place-based environmental education. And so we are in the beautiful Sonderman Park, right, on the west side, and we have such, a lot of our lessons are right at our fingertips here, but we go to schools, we go to parks, we go to public spaces and places, and our staff will scope out those areas first and make sure that we're teaching, as I said, place-based. And so also getting those kids that maybe aren't comfortable or haven't been as exposed to understand that their schoolyard, their playground, is a nature, wonderland as well, because there's many things to learn there. But we go all over. I
imagine picking up somebody from the southeast side of town, where there aren't as many parks and open spaces. It's a more wide open area, and picking up a kid from there who may not have been out of that environment, and then bringing him into the more rugged area of Sonderman Park at first might be a little unsettling. So maybe starting off, I guess, in their neighborhood where they're more familiar, is probably the way that you guys do it. It would make sense to me.
Yeah, you're right on. Yeah. That we do.
And I am not an educator, so I'm just guessing. I just play an expert. So as these kids progress through this, you mentioned, the kindergartners and the middle schoolers, and you get up into the high schools. Do you move more into bringing them out into the outdoors? Do you go more remote or more distant as you do that as they get older, so they're more comfortable with that kind of stuff? I guess by then they're actually riding their bikes and going hiking and out with family picnics and stuff like that more often. So do you bring them more and more remote?
We do, but we also do that with some of the younger kids as well. Okay. It just depends on, we'll put program offerings up on the website and advertise those through social media. And so families can pick and choose. And, there are times we've been in remote areas with maybe a little more novice folks or novice kids that haven't been as exposed. But it is a progression, as you said, for the most part.
I imagine bringing somebody out into the great outdoors who hasn't been there and just teaching them that it's not all that scary and
Yes.
everything is probably also a good way to do it. Again,
Yes.
I'm not an educator. I'm just, figuring this out on my own. So you have all these programs. You guys have been doing this for years. It's it's an incredibly successful program from everything I've seen. And you get, one of your ex-directors is now, has moved up and he's with Great Outdoors Colorado. Christopher's doing great work up there. It's obviously a good breeding ground, not only for your students, but for your staff here. The big question comes in, of course, and why we're here with the Give, is how do you fund that? Do you charge the parents? Do you charge the school districts? Is it, how do you fund being able to do this great work that you guys do?
Yeah, being a small nonprofit is a challenge, and we are grateful to be in the Give campaign, and we fund our programs. We do have fees that for our programs, but we also, what makes us unique is that we don't turn anyone away for inability to pay. And so one of my biggest roles is to raise the money.
Right.
And we do grants, we do sponsorships, we do individual donations, and then, participate in different fundraising. I will say that, and I've talked about this when I've had different opportunities, connecting kids to the outdoors we've been doing this now we're in our 26th year. I feel very fortunate because I grew up in I'm going to date myself, but in the 70s and 80s. And my parents were definitely taught my sister and I and, gave us kind of that. We had a lot of freedom and grew up in a house that had a field and woods on 3 sides.
Oh, that's nice.
And so we were very fortunate. But where I'm going with that is that, there are kids that don't have that access or parents don't know. Right. And so, again, we don't turn anybody away. And we really look to those grants and individual donations. With the COVID pandemic, that brought a lot of chaos for everyone and really impacted small business in a negative way. For us, for Catamount Institute, it did impact us negatively in terms of having to shut operations. But the silver lining is that the demand for our programs are higher than ever. And schools and parents are realizing the importance of getting kids off screen time, out of their rooms, out of isolation, connecting to something bigger than themselves, like the outdoors, and trusted adults and peers. And so the challenge for us is meeting that demand. And so we fundraise, and the donations through the Give campaign are so important because they allow us to serve everyone that wants to be served, and they allow us to connect more kids to nature and really expand our mission and our programs.
I have some adults I'll send you to get them away from screen time.
I have joked about doing an adult kind of a digital detox and doing some kind of nature retreats, because how are we going to model this to our kids if we're not doing it ourselves?
Right. I'm not far behind you. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think that's an awesome idea. We talked about, you do stuff with different school districts and different groups. You mentioned at the beginning that you also do for homeschoolers. Mm-hmm. So if you have some parents who are homeschooling their child or children, how do they work in? Do they just contact you and say, I've got a couple of 10-year-olds that, for example, that I want to bring in, or they just, that's pretty much it, or? Well,
so one of the new programs, and I haven't said this yet in the time we're together, but all of our information, we keep our website very up to date, and that's catamountinstitute.org. Mm-hmm. Or, calling the office or seeing us on social media and Facebook and Instagram. But for homeschool, we are a certified or approved homeschool enrichment program. And so we have different homeschool cohorts that we will do field trips, lesson plans. We'll do a full day of homeschool enrichment, science education and environmental education. And that's kind of taken on, it's grown. in the last couple of years. And again, I don't want to focus too much on the pandemic because I like the fact that it's in the rearview mirror.
But it did change things quite a bit.
It did change things. Yeah. And so we found that a lot of kids were not returning back to regular traditional school and traditional classrooms. And so we're able to provide that supplemental science education to those homeschoolers.
And it's all accredited education that the parents can use to show that they're hitting all the check marks or whatever it is they need to do.
All standards based, all meets all the credit or all the requirements for the state of Colorado.
Oh, great. That's awesome. When you do these programs, are they done as a series of programs for like kindergartners? Do you bring them out like 4 times a year, or is it just like a one and done and then you do another topic later? Or are they designed to be, you hit them several times during the school year? How's that work?
It really depends on the school district or what the either the parents, the schools, or the partner organization is looking for. And so again, we kind of go back to this core curriculum that is standards-based, not just for homeschoolers, but for all of our programs. And then we can customize from there. So some of the elementary schools in like District 11 and District 2, it is a series-based. And so we know in the fall, we're going to hit on plant life and the parts of a plant and plant growth, weather. In the spring, we do different things with the streams and different things in the growing. The staff are, I'm sure I'm not mentioning all of our lessons, but
it's okay.
We do seasonal based and then we kind of go from there. Schools will book us for just a one and done field trip, and then they'll kind of tell us what they're studying at school. We'll pull out what we've got that's related to that, and we have a very rich and deep depth of curriculum that we've done over the years that we're not redundant. We don't just keep, repeating ourselves, but we use that core and then continue to customize.
I like that you do actually customize. So if they're saying, well, we want a 1-day field trip for the kids, and here's where we're at in their studies.
Yes. And
so you actually, you work with that to customize. I think that's really valuable because, again, speaking not as an educator, but being as somebody who would think about doing something like that, it's a continuation. It's not a disruption of their studies. It's a continuation of studies. Like, today we're going to go do something entirely different and throw them off. You're actually continuing what they're doing there. And then when they go back to school, they just pick it up from the other end.
Yep.
Seems like that's really a great way to do it. You guys do summer camps too?
We do summer camps.
Okay. So are those more of something a parent might initiate, or are they also in conjunction with the schools? Are they still a continuation of schools, or is that more like I want my child to spend a week in the outdoors, just becoming more appreciative? How does that work?
Typically, it is parent initiated. We like to believe and hope it's kid initiated as well too, because
that'd be better.
Yeah, many of the kids might have had an experience with us coming to the school and doing a guest speaking or the field trip or a lesson, and then they'll go home and tell their parents about, I loved Catamount Institute. I want to go. And then we do week-long camps throughout the summer. We do multiple age groups, and those are mostly school age. So that's really going to be like your kindergarten through middle school. We do some high school and teen programs, but we also find that those are the ages we're still always trying to connect because maybe they're getting a job or an internship or something like that. But we'll do week-long theme-based summer camp that includes field trips and guest speakers. And our home base is Sonderman Park, but then we'll travel all over the Pikes Peak region for those.
That's awesome. So you guys get to go out there and get them. I can see, I was thinking when you were talking about that high schoolers, their minds are in a lot of different places in that age group there. So they're probably like, I don't know if I want to go to a camp, but I can see where, younger kids, obviously you want to keep that momentum kind of going, and where else better in Colorado than, in the summertime around here. It's just gorgeous.
Well, and with the high schoolers and the teens, we really start to focus on career pathways in nature, science, environmental education. And, living here in the Pikes Peak region, we know that the outdoors is such a draw, but we need people to take care of our parks and our lands. And so really, we like to hook the kids when they're young, take them through the pathways all the way up, and then also show them that there is career opportunity, job opportunity, and that they can kind of carry this passions forward. So
that brings me to another question. How many of your alumni from this have gone on into careers in, becoming forestry people or park rangers or botanists or biologists or anything? Do you have any idea how many have continued on with careers like that?
With me, I couldn't give you a number, but I know several do. And, Chris Obi, as you said, is a great example, going on to GoCo. And we are starting to build in greater retention in our own team. And so giving people, career growth opportunities here. But I do know that many of the people that work with us, especially summer, and because we do internships and fellowships with different organizations here in town, they are studying environmental studies or outdoor education and are pursuing a career in that area.
So you have people from here going to college and learning more about this stuff, and then careers in, thinking the Forest Service, the Park Service, CPW, places like that, and just continuing. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great because it's how you get that. I grew up in a rural area, but it wasn't Colorado. I grew up back east. In a slightly different environment, but it kind of ingrained in me being out there. I didn't live in a big city. It was very rural. We had a big forest behind our house, and every house was, the houses sat on nice big 1/2 or 3/4 acre lots, and there was a path that was back there, and we'd run back and forth on that path that was in the woods but behind everybody's house. So we'd pick up all the other kids as we were going back and forth, and we'd go out there and play all day. And it kind of got me interested in the outdoors. And my dad was, I wouldn't say he was an outdoors person, but he was a gardener. So he spent all day in his garden growing his vegetables and stuff like that. So I kind of got built into that, but I didn't have a thing like what you have, what you guys are offering here. And of course, and I'm going to date myself even further back than you, but wasn't something that you really heard about very much. This is really, the Institute's been here 26 years. That's probably pretty long for something in this line. Am I correct? Is that a pretty old, I really don't want to use the word old, but is that a mature type of a program to be around that long so far?
It is, and I feel that we're fortunate. And environmental education. So we, our staff are called environmental educators, and really being able to have credibility and bring credibility to this field. I do feel that we have that.
Sure.
But I don't think that there were, I'm trying to use my words. I don't think there were many early adopters in this area. And so
26 years ago, you and maybe 2 other groups might have been out there, and I'm just pulling a number out, but there was not a lot of people doing this kind of stuff, not a lot of organizations. I mean, even, UCCS's program is relatively new. Right. Colorado College's program is relatively new, and that's a college that's been around for 150 years or however long. It's been here forever.
Sure.
And even, institutions have been around that long. Their outdoor studies programs are relatively new. They have not been around a long time. So you guys really got started on the ground floor of really getting this going. So you guys are doing all this great work. You have needs to be able to fund these programs, to have staff. I imagine that you staff up during the summer, or do you pretty have consistent staffing year round because you work with the school year, or how's that work with you guys?
We do staff up in the summer. Throughout the school year, we really collaborate and partner with different organizations, and we are doing that homeschool programming and the things that I'm talking about. What we don't have the concentration and the numbers of kids where we do in the summer. So we ramp up in the summer and have seasonal staff, and then we have our year-long permanent staff. And, as the demand is higher, we're trying to build capacity so that we can, as I said, continue to offer and to offer more. And, we're not necessarily interested in growing for the sake of growth, because our quality and what we do is very important to us, and staying true to our mission. But the demand is so high that it is challenging with the resources that we have or the resources that we need to continue to serve and meet that demand for our programs.
With a hugely growing population like we have here, whether you want to grow or not, it sounds like you just have to.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to just serve the people you want to serve that you've been serving.
Right.
So you have to grow. I mean, it just seems like that's a necessity.
And we want to grow.
Right.
We want to stay to our core mission.
You guys have been able to keep up with it and keep serving a growing community. And as you mentioned, growing demand.
Yeah.
Hugely growing demand. So we're here to ask people for money, basically. This is the Give campaign. This is the purpose of this, is to get people acquainted with you and the Catamount Institute and what you're doing here. This is the Give campaign. We're here to ask people for money. We know that there's big donors out there, but let's talk about how the smaller donor at the Give campaign really helps you guys meet your goals and meet your needs.
Yeah. So the donations from the Give campaign, really there are some basic primary needs that we are looking to meet. We provide transportation, and so we have a fleet of 3 15-passenger vans. One of our vans is in need of repair, and it has been parked, and so that impacts us in a negative way of not being able to serve as many children. And as I said a little bit earlier, we're really dedicated to access and providing access to all kids with opportunities to connect to the outdoors. And so donations, I know that vans may not be glamorous to a donor, but they mean the world of difference to the kids and people we serve. Transportation is a huge barrier for some of the population that we serve, and with the exponential growth that Colorado Springs has seen, the transportation availability has not quite caught up. And so that is a huge need and impact. The other is just scholarships. So for kids to participate in our programs, and for us to keep our costs down, but to continue to pay our staff, make sure we have materials and resources. We rely on those funds from the Give campaign to provide scholarships. And then lastly, just workforce development, training, capacity, retaining the staff that we have, and being able to add new staff with the expertise that we're looking for.
Excellent. So no matter how small, the give dollars are going to help you fix a van, pay for some supplies, things like that.
Yes.
Do you have opportunities for people to volunteer if they want to help you out?
We do. Great. And they're not, so we're in there's a little bit of a transition with our volunteers, but if somebody could reach out to us through the website or call the office, and we can get them on a program. There's many volunteer opportunities.
I'm dropping a hint to retired educators out there who might be looking for something to do.
Would love to have them.
Ex-forest rangers, park rangers, stuff like that. If people like that who have that experience and maybe wondering what they can do to help, this might be their chance to help out.
We recently, I'll just add, we partnered with G.E. Johnson on their Build Like a Girl Day. And so they are doing education to bring more females into the engineering and STEAM careers. And so we were the recipients of 6 beautiful garden beds that we will need volunteers for to help us get those gardens and some composting and things like that off the ground and running.
This sounds awesome. So some gardeners who may be looking for a little bit of, you don't want me out there, I have a black thumb, but there's obviously a lot of people who would be obviously great at doing something like that. And I'm sure it wouldn't take them a lot of their time, but they'd get out here to do some really rewarding work with you guys and with the kids.
Yes.
Give campaign's winding down. We got a couple of weeks left. Any last minute pitches you want to tell anybody? Anything last minute going on you've got that they can come meet you guys or anything like that you have going on?
In terms of events, the last couple of weeks of the Give campaign will be wrapping up our events, but I will do a last minute push for, just to reiterate, every dollar matters. And our goal this year is $30,000. and we've had some great momentum. I would just ask for people, if you're passionate about what we do, if you're interested in what you do or what we do, please think of us for your end of the year giving. It would make a huge difference to our kids and our staff.
I imagine they can just go to your website and just keep up to date on what's going on there and everything you've got going on. You have social media. You talked about you have Facebook and Instagram.
And we have we get a lot of recognition for our posts. They're a lot of fun. They're interactive, and we're always keeping everybody updated on what we're doing and what we have going on. And so social media and our website.
Great. So if you're on social media, you got access to a website, go and check out Catamount Institute. It's catamountinstitute.org. Got it. Heather, this has been a great conversation with you guys. I love the work you guys do because it's so important to get kids started, respecting nature and understanding nature and just understanding all what they have out here and not taking it for granted, which is the big thing. It's good to get them understanding and appreciating what they have out there. And you guys do a really great job with that. And what I've seen over the years has been really wonderful. Thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you.
Everybody, the Give campaign, it's got a couple weeks left by the time you hear this. So you still have time. By now, you should be done all your Christmas shopping. So start looking at giving to these organizations like the Catamount Institute and donating some money. Doesn't have to be a lot. Just whatever you can spare helps all these organizations out, and especially Heather and her team at the Catamount Institute. That's givepikespeak.org, and you can go over there and donate to them. So with that, everybody, thank you for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast, and we'll talk to you next time.